Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. Can you hear me? You're muted, Dennis.
I can hear you.
Wait, I think I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Everything seems to be running a bit slow today. Trying to get going live on Facebook here already.
So is your thing with on the webinar you did on cash flow with
Mike Milan.
Yeah, Mike Milan. Is that a weekly thing? Is that?
Yeah, it's going to be every two. Hang on, I'll talk about it once we're officially live. I'm waiting for Facebook. It's doing the whole grindy thing.
Oh, okay.
Wait, I think we're getting there. I'll simulate it for you.
Like the old Windows hourglass or whatever.
Let's just do this for an hour, because that's what it's like sometimes working in today's technology.
I think my arm would get tired.
Greg says it's enthralling. He likes my little finger circle. And good morning. I think we're officially live now. No, I haven't hit the go live button. Wait, let me go hit the go live button. Okay. And now, good morning. We are officially live on Facebook. Welcome to the Zoom In with Seth, David, and friends. Let's flex our muscles. Let's get stronger. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Morning.
Remember that your cameras are on. I know sometimes some of you privately chat me and say, I didn't want my camera to come on. So make sure if you don't want your camera on that you don't have your camera on. All right, so we have absolutely nothing scheduled for today. That's why I set it up as the free.
Oh, okay.
Those are some of the best ones.
They usually are, actually. It's not even a joke. It's true. So,
yesterday was good.
What?
Yesterday was good.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed it. That was fun, actually. So yes, Dennis, going back to your question first, we did start the cash flow show. It's every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Mike Milan and I are going to do a short, like 20 to 30 minute episode. We're going to talk about one like very specific topic and just get it covered and move on. This way, we're not holding people hostage for too long. It's digestible. It's something you can absorb, in, like I said, less than half an hour. And then our goal is to write up the best show notes in the industry of podcasting, which I've done already. I've actually replayed the episode and took detailed notes. And so we're going to be providing a lot of resources, links to tools and things. And we're going to make sure those all show up in the show notes, which Mike is going to have posted over at cashflowtool.com. So that's what the cash flow show is going to be all about. Every week on Tuesday at 4 o'clock Pacific. And then, yes, Greg, in our 97 and up call, we had an unusually small group that came to our weekly call yesterday. So what we did was we decided to dispense with our normal business, which on Thursdays is a book study that we're doing on a book called How to Write Copy That Sells. And we suspended the rules, so to speak, and decided to have a discussion. And the discussion really amounted to, and I'm turning off that enter exit so that as I let people in, we don't keep hearing that doorbell sound. But we had a really, I think, interesting discussion about, kind of what we do when we're overwhelmed, when we have so much work to do, how we're going to keep up. And I think we had some, some interesting discoveries in that session on that subject, because a lot of times we think in terms of doing about how to get new clients. But what happens when you've gotten so many new clients? Because, like Greg joined the 97 and Up program and his business just took off. Of course, I'd love to take credit for it, but it's obviously all Greg. But no, so what do you do when you're overwhelmed, when you don't know how you're going to keep up with all the work? And
You
it's not
had a
even,
lot to do with the profitability of the taking off in business.
oh, do tell. Come on, let's shamelessly promote Seth for a minute. Tell me.
Well, I think that at a low level, I always knew that I needed to bill what I'm worth, but I would always kind of default back to, oh, you only want to pay, $35 an hour. Okay, no problem. But now I'm through the group and understanding my true worth through there. That's where I kind of gain a lot of momentum as far as, just billing the right amount for what I do.
So my encouragement not to take less than your worth had helped.
I think part of the problem when you first start out, when you start billing really low, is you think as an employee, you think, boy, if I was making $35 an hour as an employee, that'd be really good. But you don't really realize all the costs associated with being self-employed.
So just this morning, I had a client reach out to me and ask me if I would be willing to take a morning out on their behalf to go speak on their behalf at the Los Angeles City Office of Finance to resolve a matter that they have with them. And they wanted to know what my fee would be for the day. And of course, ever being the people pleasers in these situations, we always want to, we want to like come in low and come, and I'm like, sitting there like, this is a whole day of my time, which means I'm not going to be able to get to do all kinds of other things that I need time to do, that I'm always behind, I'm always trying to catch up on stuff because I do so much. And so I basically said, yeah, you want me for the day? You want me to go represent you? $1,500 for the day, seems fair. I'll take that, because then I'll take my laptop there, and while I'm waiting, which is what most of the time there is going to be spent doing, is waiting, I'll get work done, But that's the thing is, yeah, we have to charge what we're worth. It's, and my whole mantra has been charge what gets you excited to do the work. So I'll be excited to go sit around and wait all day for $1,500. That's not bad for a day.
Yeah.
I'll take it, especially because I can get other stuff done in the meantime. So I can sort of overlay that and effectively earn probably a lot more than $1,500 that day. So, and it'll be a day I can reserve for like prospecting and follow up. I can make phone calls, whatever I need to do. There's a lot I can do while I'm waiting for my number to be called. So that's what we do. So good. I'm glad. And then we had some interesting ideas we threw around what to do when you're overwhelmed. And believe it or not, it wasn't necessarily about like doing work. Sometimes when you're overwhelmed and you're stressed out, your concentration level sucks. And so the best thing to do is unplug and get away and take a day off and decompress and watch Netflix. And, and like one of the things we were talking about is, just being well rested. When I start feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, I start getting to bed early at night so I can get up early, because I find I function better early in the morning. Rather than stay up late to do something, I'd rather get to sleep early and get up early and get it done on that side of the day, because I don't function well when I'm tired. And I've learned that over the years. And I've learned that when I'm well rested, I am at like 130% of my normal capacity to be able to just get things done and stay focused. When I'm tired, I'm easily distracted, right? It doesn't take much. And one of the things I pointed out, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much agreement I got from Greg and Sarah, who was on the call with us, because I actually thought I might be alone in this, but one of the times I've noticed that I'm easily distracted is when I'm waiting for some process, right? So I'm in QuickBooks Online, let's say, and I go to hit save on a transaction, and I get that, and I'm waiting, and it's during those times that I'm like, all right, fine, I'll go check Facebook. The problem is 20 minutes goes by, QuickBooks has long since caught up, and I'm still screwing around on Facebook, so I end up losing a lot of time. So the moral of that story is Don't click away. Stay focused. Wait. And what I'm really learning is if this happens for more than like a few seconds, just hit refresh. You might lose a thing or two that you've posted, but it's far better than waiting and then letting yourself get distracted and losing 20 minutes to half an hour on something that added absolutely no value to your day, right? Because let's face it, most of what I'm doing and reading on Facebook adds zero value to my day. You know, it's garbage. It's crap.
Yeah.
It's the latest thing I saw this morning when I made the mistake of logging onto Facebook when I had just about first woken up, was this thing where people want you apparently to use emojis to describe a band. And then people have to guess what band you're trying to describe with those emojis. And I'm like, this is what people are spending their time on? I guess they have it. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, I have things to do. I was up till almost midnight last night preparing for a meeting that I have. And at the last minute yesterday, getting in my course outlines to Santa Monica College for what I'm going to be teaching there in the fall and again in the spring. I don't know. These things are more interesting and exciting to me than using emojis to describe some musical band and seeing if my friends can guess what band I'm trying to describe. Maybe I'm weird that way. I probably.
What band would you have done? And what emojis would you have used?
I would have done U2. I would have just done the letters U2. I don't know. That was just the first thing that popped into my head. What would you have done?
Oh, it's simple. It's train. Duh. Boom.
There
Done.
you go. That's funny because the one I saw, that's exactly what they did train. Dennis, you're about to say something?
I find that when I feel overwhelmed, the best thing is just try to focus on doing one thing at a time. And in your mind's eye, you're always trying to do 3 or 4 different things, but it's physically impossible to do more than one thing at a time. And I think that there's a book out, it's written like about 1936. It's called How to Stop Worrying, Start Living by Dale Carnegie. Mm. And the first chapter is the one that strikes me, is it talks about living in day-tight compartments. And you really can't live in the past, and you really can't live in the future. You can only focus on now. And I think that when we start getting stressed out, we're trying to do stuff that isn't here yet, or that, I mean, we have to focus on what we're doing. And I think that at least that helps me kind of de-stress and just focus on what I'm doing now and doing that well, rather than trying to do 3 things kind of in a half-assed way.
Boogeymen, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about boogeymen. A boogeyman is something that we're afraid of that doesn't exist, right? And it's the truth. You know, where I come from in my 12-step background, we talk about that kind of thing, you know, because we tend to live in fear. And so I'm going to that's going to go in today's show notes, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. You said it was by Dale Carnegie?
Yeah. He wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. He was very popular back in the 30s.
Oh, that was him? I thought that was Stephen Covey or someone.
No. Look him up on Amazon. The advice was written like back in the 30s, but people haven't changed very much, you know, in the last couple hundred years. And the concerns that people had back in the Depression and the stress of, you know, the conflict in Europe and all that is, you know, it's just a way of coping in terms of just living in daytime compartments and not worrying about what you did. You can't change the past, and you can't live in the future. So you just try to do the best you can today, because you have no guarantee you'll be even be alive tomorrow.
Exactly. So, yep. And in AA, we have an expression we like to say. We say we do not regret the past, nor do we wish to shut the door on it. And I love that phrase. It's like words to live by, right? Because I don't want to regret the past, but I don't want to ignore it either. I want to learn from it, right?
Yeah, you want to learn from it. You know, you want to learn from others' mistakes, not your own.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, and we talked about decompressing. We talked about doing things that relax us. Another thing, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday or not, Greg, but another thing that occurs to me that I like to do, if I'm really tired and stressed out and feeling behind, there are certain kinds of things that are often on my list of things that I want to get to that lend themselves to working on when I'm, let's say, more tired and really looking to relax. Like for me, writing. You know, if I want to write, like if I'm really tired and I'm stressed out, just sitting down and writing content, because that in itself relaxes me. I love to write. It really, because it kind of clears my head, because then I'm just focused on what I'm writing. And so it has a way of helping me block out all the other stuff, you know. And then, of course, we talked about meditating. I'm always talking about my favorite app, calm.com, which is a great meditation app. And then we talked about a few other apps. I forgot what it was, but Sarah had told us about an app that she came across that's like calm.com. It's just guided meditations. But that one, I guess, is free. Calm.com is, I mean, it's $35 a year. It's like, who cares? For that amount of money, it's worth it. Especially if you do more than 2 meditations a year, you've probably more than gotten your money's worth with it. And of course, the idea is to use it every day, you know. And that's one of the things I've learned when I get into the habit of doing something like that, and I do it every day. It makes all the difference, because it's not as effective when you're using it, you know, just in the time of need. It's more of a practice kind of thing where you do it over and over and over again, and then it kind of gets you prepared, you know, for when the proverbial shit does hit the fan. You know, you're more calm, you're more present, you're more able to deal with whatever's being thrown your way, you know? Hold on, let me get that.
So that app that Sarah was talking about yesterday was called Insight Timer. And it's
Insight what?
Insight Timer.
Okay. It's kind of a strange name.
And, yeah, it's kind of strange, and I grabbed it, but I haven't looked into it yet.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, and then, so, look, for this part, it's going to be different for everyone. But there are certain activities that I find relax me that other people would probably find extremely stressful, like writing formulas in a spreadsheet, right? Because that's another activity to me that gets me focused, right? And anything that gets me focused has a way of blocking out all the stuff that's going through my mind that's causing me to feel stressed out. When in reality, most of the stuff I'm stressed about are, like I said before, they're boogeymen. They're things I'm afraid of that I don't need to be afraid of. All I need to do is set aside the time to work on whatever it is that, because that's usually what in my case is getting me stressed out. It's something I want to get done that I haven't had the time to get done, you know. And so then the simple answer is, and the most direct answer that I've found is open up my calendar and schedule an appointment with myself to get it done. You know, I think still a lot of us think of the calendar and appointments as something we only use when we're scheduling time with someone else. But I learned a long time ago that that's not the case. You know, I schedule all kinds of appointments with myself to let myself know that on this time, on this day, this is when I'm going to work on this thing, you know, whatever that might be. And oftentimes just knowing that I've set aside the time and knowing that I've set aside ample time to work on it and get it done is all it takes to relieve the stress, you know.
Well, my philosophy is you don't find time, you make time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to prioritize and just, I think Stephen Covey has an example of, have you seen where he has this glass jar and he puts some big boulders in and then he puts in the small ones and he says, you put the big ones in first and then you find, you know, that's your priorities and make sure those get done first.
Right. Yeah, and then you put the smaller rocks in and then you pour in the sand, right? Yeah. And then there's a joke about that says after it's all said and done, you know, when it's all filled up with big rocks and small rocks, and now you filled it to the top with sand, and then you pour in some beer. And the moral of the story is there's always room for beer. Not for me, but for those who do partake.
Seth will be here all night. Thanks, everyone.
I will be.
Well, on another topic, I'm thinking about doing a speech for my Toastmaster group on blockchain, because I keep hearing these things about. I mean, do you have any opinion on blockchain? I mean, Doug Sweeter seems to think it's going to really have a major impact on the accounting industry.
It will, and it is. But the reality is, and this is just my opinion, it's all stuff that's going to happen in the background. So we're not going to see it directly. We're just going to be told by those who do really understand it and who are using it to build the technologies that go on top of it. You know, we're going to be told by those people that they're using blockchain, therefore we expect it should be more secure. We should have more faith in it. You know, and I imagine that's true. I just don't imagine how many people are going to have the patience, the bandwidth, and the wherewithal to really understand what blockchain is and how it works. It's just the technology behind. You know, there's this new thing called, I think it's doc.io, which is claiming to be the new LinkedIn that's built on blockchain, so that presumably your information that you're sharing in it will be more secure, you know. But it'll be more secure until somebody figures out a way to hack it. I mean, Bitcoin is built on blockchain, and maybe the blockchain technology itself is sort of unhackable, but Bitcoin is not unhackable. They've had major breaches where people have gotten away with millions of dollars, you know, in Bitcoin because of that. So, you know, blockchain might be infallible, and that seems to be the claim, but that still doesn't prevent whatever you're building on top of it from being, you know, free.
Well, it sounded like it has potential of sort of eliminating a lot of middleman positions, or like auditor positions where you're verifying things.
Yeah, because transactions will be verified in real time, right as they happen. You know, and so, yeah, they're saying that it's going to change the auditing part of the accounting industry dramatically because those audits will happen. Or I should say, because those audits will happen in real time. But still, somebody's going to need to somehow document that and put it in a work paper, right? So it's, I just get the feeling.
Make sense of it.
Yeah. And I get the feeling, because it's fine to say that, oh, it's audited in real time. Great, prove it, right? You know, because that's what auditing is really all about. Auditing is about proving it. And
yeah, plus,
go ahead.
I was going to say, people like to work with people. They, you know, it's kind of hard to trust machines sometimes because you don't really understand what's going on. That's what makes me a little nervous about all these sort of black box you know, assumptions we're making and what could possibly go wrong. Well, just because we can't think of anything that could go wrong doesn't necessarily mean that something couldn't, you know, catastrophic happen.
It's just one of those things that I don't think most of us who are going to be using the technologies that, like I said, may lay on top of blockchain, most of us aren't going to have the time, nor the patience, nor the wherewithal, nor the bandwidth to want to understand the intricacies of how blockchain works and why it makes it so secure. We're just going to end up having to trust that the people like Doug Sleater, who have taken the time to really study this stuff, know what they're saying. And if they tell us, hey, this is super secure, okay, great. You know, as a practitioner who's just working in the trenches day to day and serving my clients and getting their bookkeeping done, great. If you tell me that all this technology I'm using is now built on blockchain, therefore it's more secure, I hope you're right. You know, that's about as far as I can take it. You know? I mean, what am I going to do? I'm not going to do anything different. Blockchain is not, as far as I can tell, going to change my behavior in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to hopefully give me some increased assurance that I'm working with more secure technologies. Therefore, there's that much less of a chance that my client's data can be breached. But I'm not even convinced of that right now because, like I said, just because blockchain is secure doesn't mean that the technology that's sitting on top of it is. And Bitcoin has already proved that to be the case. So, you know, it is great. So if somebody tells me, yeah, blockchain with more secure audit in real time, wonderful. Let me know how that goes. I'll be here, you know, analyzing my clients' financial statements and getting reports out.
Well, I see it as having more impact on large companies with like corporate staffs that are doing a lot of, you know, sort of middleman type functions, or as opposed to small business people, because I don't think that, you know, the clients that we'd be attracting want to deal with people. They don't necessarily want to deal with technology, I wouldn't think.
Right.
So I think you're more secure in the sense that, you know, being a small business owner or being a small business accountant than, say, like I used to be a corporate staff accountant. Mm-hmm. That's pretty.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I've heard a lot of talk about how audits are going to be able to happen in real time because of the way blockchain works, but I have no clue what that looks like. I don't understand what that looks like. So still, what are you going to show me in a work paper that proves or convinces me that the numbers reported on Best Buy's P&L this quarter are audited and verified? You know, right now we have an audit process where there are work papers that sit behind those numbers where somebody took the time to do some testing and prove that those numbers were accurate, right? We send out confirmations to the bank to confirm that the bank balances that were shown on the balance sheet as of a certain date agree with what the bank says, right?
Hmm.
That to me is audit evidence, right? So just telling me that, oh, we have blockchain now, so it's verified, that's not going to work, you know? I'm going to be like, show me how blockchain verified it. Show me where the proof is that I know I can rely on it because blockchain says it's so. You know, so there's a lot of ambiguity around it, I think. So I think it's got a long way to come in terms of being able to give us as practitioners the evidence that when they say something's verified because it's blockchain, what does that really mean? You know, where's the proof? Show it to me. You know?
Just
and
out of curiosity,
I haven't gotten into it too deeply because I'm like, it's too ambiguous.
Just out of curiosity, are you getting any questions from your clients about the new tax law?
A few here and there. Somebody asked me yesterday, and I'm quick to say, you know what? That's not my thing. I don't do taxes. I do financial accounting. I don't do tax accounting. And so for that, you have to defer. Like somebody asked me, what was the question? You might even know the answer, Dennis, because you're a tax guy. I can't remember what the question was. It had to do with like some kind of deductions and I don't know. But yeah, so I'm getting questions. Go ahead.
The one big thing that's happening is they call it the QBI, qualified business income. The Congress has created another type of income. And essentially, if you are a Schedule C or an S Corp, or you can deduct up to 20% of your net income off of your Schedule C or whatever. It's a deduction. What it was is that since they dropped the corporate rates down to 21%, they want to do something comparable for pass-through entities and Schedule Cs and partnerships and S corps, so that they would sort of even the playing field in terms of reducing the tax rates. And so this is an attempt, but it's become so complicated.
Well, and honestly, from what little I do know, it feels like it's all smoke and mirrors and BS because, yeah, they're giving us this extra 20%, but they're also kicking out meals expense deductions entirely, correct?
Well, that's up for debate. There's a big controversy among the tax people as to the thinking is that that it wasn't really intended. They just wrote the law badly, and that there's going to be a correction this year. And like on the QBI, they don't have the form yet, so there's going to be the tax community sort of looking at for the IRS to sort of, or Congress to write the rules as to, okay, where are we taking this deduction? Is it on the 1040 someplace or what?
Right.
Or is it on your Schedule C? And
right, and then we're losing our property tax deductions for those of us who own homes beyond $10,000, correct?
$10,000, yeah. So, and you're losing your schedule, your 2% itemized deductions like, tax preparation fees and reimbursed employee expenses, or you're losing that. And so there's a lot of things that are still kind of trying to work their way through the system, and people don't really understand it yet.
Right. So they claim it's to even the playing field and make it better for us sort of middle income people, but it sure doesn't feel that way when you start getting into some of these details, Yeah,
I mean, the big change is the getting rid of the personal exemptions and replace it with the child tax credit. And from what I've seen so far, because like my software, it gives me, there's a worksheet or a summary page that has like the 2017 tax information or numbers, and then it has another column that how would that play out if you used the 2018 rules using the 2017 numbers, and what would be the difference? And from what I've seen so far, most people, their taxes are lower because they've reduced the rates and widened the ranges.
So their taxes are actually going to be lower as a result of getting the child credit as opposed to the personal exemption?
Yeah, because personal exemption just reduces taxable income. Tax credit takes money right off the top. I mean, reduces the tax. So a credit's always better than a deduction,
Right, because that comes straight off the tax liability.
Yeah, and so plus they've expanded the phase-out threshold for the child tax credit. I think it's around 400,000, 450, as opposed to I think it's like about 120 currently. So it's it has the effect of, I mean, like I have one client that has like 5 kids, and she was losing like about $8,000 and $10,000 in personal exemptions, but that was more than offset by the tax credit. So it's kind of hard to say right now because there's all these different variables going in. But from what I've seen so far with my software and the tax projections, there's very few people that are going to owe more tax, and most people look like they'll owe less tax so far.
Right. Well, good. I hope that's true. It's just, that's the thing. It's like this stuff is written and made so complicated that it seems impossible for anyone to know. I mean, what I decided a while ago was that I'm just going to give the guy who does my taxes, because I don't do my own taxes. Like I said, I'm not a tax guy. I'm a financial accounting guy. So I have somebody who does my taxes. I'm going to hand over my P&Ls to him, and I'm going to say, good luck with it. Let me know how it shakes down, because I have no way of knowing. Fortunately, I have a guy who I very much trust, that he's going to understand the tax laws, and he's going to do his utmost to make sure that I'm paying legally the least amount of tax as possible. At the end of the day, that's how I'm at his mercy, because I don't know, and I'm not going to have the time or the bandwidth to go learn it. It's not my thing. That's just like I'm not going to go learn how to fix the water pump in my car to make sure that the mechanic is doing it correctly. I trust that the mechanic knows how to do it and does it right. I want to jump back to the blockchain conversation for a minute, because I just clicked over onto our Facebook feed, and Sarah wrote a few comments. She says, I envision blockchain linking accounts receivable from one company to accounts payable of another company, or delivery of inventory. Then she says, blockchain verifies it because the distributor's ledger is reconciled among many. So let me stop on those 2 comments. I get that. That part I understand. I think everybody understands that. The problem is that just telling me that isn't enough proof for me to say, okay, so it's verified because blockchain says it is. I'm going to need a little more than that before I'm convinced that blockchain is sufficient to say that these financial statements are audited. That just to tell me that blockchain verified it, great. There's still going to need to be some testing done to make sure that what it verified is still correct. I'm still going to need to compare that one company's accounts receivable to the other's accounts payable to make sure that blockchain did what it's supposed to do and did it correctly, right?
Or maybe get a report that shows that,
Right. And
shows the matching.
Yes, that's the question, and that's what I haven't heard at all about blockchain. Is blockchain going to be able to produce reports? Where does one go to view the blockchain ledger? Because I've Googled it to see, and I haven't found anything online that I can refer to that will show me the blockchain ledger. It seems to be this ambiguous thing that lives in some alternate universe in the Matrix after I've taken the blue pill.
Well, also given the volume of the transactions, I mean, you're going to have to find some ways to summarize it, maybe drill down if you want to.
Right. So, and Sarah says the concern with cryptocurrency is different than blockchain. Again, I know there's differences in the concern, but my point that I was trying to make earlier about that is that I think people are starting to interpret that because cryptocurrency is built on blockchain, it's super secure, and it's important for people to understand that it's not. That yes, blockchain may be super secure. Blockchain is supposedly hack-proof because of the way that it's verified, a lot of different ways. But we've already seen the proof that the cryptocurrencies that sit on top of blockchain, are still very much hackable. And money has been stolen, from cryptocurrency platforms. So just because it's built on blockchain doesn't make the thing that's built on blockchain more secure. We've seen the proof otherwise.
Well, cryptocurrency has all sorts of ramifications. I mean, for example, the economy and the Federal Reserve uses the money supply to control, the economy. How are you going to manage cryptocurrency?
Right. No, there is nothing. And some people unfortunately experienced that very badly this year because when it went up to over $20,000 and everybody thought, oh, it's never going to go down. I distinctly saw people say, oh, it's not going to go down. It's just going to keep going up. And then all of a sudden, overnight, it's back down to 14,000. It's like, oops, I hope you didn't buy it at 20,000, So it's just something I've just stayed away from. Like, I want nothing to do with it. It's just because I don't trust it and because I don't fully understand it, to be very honest. So I can't.
Somehow you're going to. you have to find some way to translate a cryptocurrency into dollars for a financial statement presentation, I would think, or whatever denomination you use for financials.
That I imagine is going to work exactly like foreign currency. It's really like having foreign currency, and you have to know what the exchange rate was on a given day, on a balance sheet date, to be able to convert it. Again, I don't see big companies relying on this, at least not now. Not until, like you said, there's more of a backing to it. For now, I'm going to stick with good old U.S. dollars. When I'm in the United States. If I go to France, I'll deal with the franc. If I go to Britain, I'll deal with the pound. I'm going to do a good old-fashioned currency. That's my. So I guess to go back, Dennis, to your original. I think it'll probably be a very interesting talk that you'll give on blockchain. But when people ask me about it, it's not something I really want to spend much time on right now.
Well, I guess I'm more concerned about, for my Toastmaster speech, I think I'm going to make a little more relatable in terms of talking about how it's going to impact the economy, how it's going to impact jobs, especially professional jobs, and also maybe the dangers of relying on it, since it's really kind of hard to, if you get hacked or whatever, you have a computer, what happens if you have a computer failure, how do you know that it's going to be restored to the, there's all sorts of things that you don't fully understand, and it makes me kind of nervous. And if you're going to be relying so much on it, if you don't really understand what's going on, it's kind of like, financial futures.
So again, Sarah says, if one link of the chain is hacked, there's a disconnect. That is the safety net. Think of it as contracts recorded in multiple places so you know the contract is correct. But again, where do I go to verify that? How do I know if there's a link in the chain that's disconnected because of a hack? Like I said, I've searched for this on Google to see where do I go to look at the blockchain ledger to verify it, and I've yet to figure out how one does that. I guess I'm just relying on the crypt keeper somewhere of the blockchain to tell me that. I don't know.
I would think it might have a favorable impact on fraud prevention if you're getting rid of a lot of manual entries, because that means like people making phony entries to the general ledger. If it's going to be basically generated by blockchain, most of the transactions, I would think that it'd be safer in the sense of, rather than what you have now where people can, because of lack of segregation of duties, you can have people controlling the process and making manual entries and,
Right. But again, where am I going to go to verify something in blockchain? That's the part that's very ambiguous to me. If I have a doubt about a contract that's using blockchain to verify, and I have a question and I think something doesn't look right, where do I go to check? Right? I don't know. That's the part that seems to be in the Ethereum, right? Which I did that on purpose because Ethereum is one of the cryptocurrencies that you
right.
So again, I get it. Cryptocurrency was built on blockchain, and that's what revealed the fact that blockchain existed. And now people are very excited about blockchain and how it's going to verify everything. But I'm still not clear on where I go to verify something that's supported by blockchain. Where's that ledger? Because I literally Googled it one day. I'm like, okay, so where do I go to look to see? I was curious to see how I go to blockchain to verify the value of Bitcoin, and I was unable to find anything that led me even remotely in the right direction along those lines. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see somebody give a talk and show me where I go on the internet to check that blockchain ledger to make sure that something's accurate. That's the part. Everybody's throwing this term around, but I don't think anybody really understands it properly because nobody can tell me that very question. When somebody can tell me the answer to that very question, I'll start having a lot more confidence in it. When I understand where I go to verify something via blockchain or verify something that is, claiming to be supported in terms of its accuracy by blockchain, when I know where to go to verify that, or I know that somebody's got a process for how to go and verify that, then I'll get more excited by it, right? Until then, it's just this, it's like we get a lot of these things that become a thing, and everybody loves to throw the term around, but I don't get the sense that anybody really understands it, which is why you don't hear me talking about it, because I'm not one of these people that's going to throw a term around just because everybody else is. when I really don't understand it. I'm going to wait until somebody helps me understand it or until I get motivated on my own to go learn about it. But like I said, I try doing some of my own research because that's kind of what I do. You know, I don't like to talk about something that I haven't researched, you know, sufficiently and I have to understand it well enough to be able to explain it to somebody else. And until then, I don't talk about it, you know. And so, you know, it is what it is. But one day maybe I'll learn it, and then I'll feel comfortable, or I'll at least learn enough to know where I can send people and say, go talk to Dennis Thompson or go talk to Doug Sleater, and they can explain blockchain to you in a way that actually makes sense. So far, I've heard a lot of talk about how blockchain works and how wonderful it is, but I haven't heard a single piece of information about where to go to use blockchain to verify something.
Or maybe there's a small entrepreneur that, you know, specializes in for small businesses. Maybe you could get someone like that on the Hangout.
Yeah, sure. Maybe, and even the guy who created blockchain, it's a mystery apparently. Nobody knows who he is for sure. And by the way, Larry DeForest says that we have to take both the blue and the red pill by now. I'm sure that. So anyway, it's. I mean, I get that it's kind of a fascinating topic, but like I said, until I feel there's more sort of concrete information about how it works and how to use it, it's, like I said, it's not something I want to spend much time on.
It's funny you say concrete because blockchain is, you know, sort of the epitome of being abstract, right?
Right. Anyway, you know what's been on my mind? Spreadsheets. We were talking about this yesterday on our 97 Up call too. I am forming the opinion more and more concretely that grabbing a CSV file from a bank statement and prepping it for import and using an import tool is more efficient than using bank feeds in QBO or any accounting product. And I'll tell you why.
Why is that?
If I go into QBO, let's say, and first of all, just let's start with the download itself. The download itself gives me fairly limited vision into what information there is about that transaction, right? Whereas the CSV dump that I can take from the bank account website gives me everything, right? And what I've found is even with rules, and rules definitely help make it more efficient, what I found is that by taking a spreadsheet and then adding a column for the QuickBooks payee and a column for the QuickBooks account, it's much faster for me to prep that file for import and use a tool where I can map every field, right? And if need be, I can even split the transactions right there in the spreadsheet because the import tools, the one that I've been using most recently, SASANT Excel, makes it very easy. You just have the same transaction number on two lines and they have to be adjacent. And then it'll know these are all both part of the same transaction. Split it up into two imports, one for payments, one for money in. And I can get that done much faster. And then I can build a table in a template for that purpose that kind of serves as an ongoing list of payees and what account they go to. And I can write a simple VLOOKUP formula so that every time I drop in a download from the bank, I can drop it into a template like that. And as quickly as I've dropped it in, it's going to look up my QuickBooks payee in my account. The payee, I can create similar rules to what we're doing in QBO that pulls from the description, right? Or in the worst case, I can simply sort it by the description and fill in the payees. And I can also have my vendor list, you know, populated into my template, and I can create a drop down out of that so I can, again, quickly populate it. But I'm just finding that it's the more I do this, where I'm importing transactions using a tool from a CSV or Excel file, the more I'm finding that my error rate is closer and closer to zero, right? I have almost a zero error rate because what I've done is I've given myself the opportunity to take the time to prepare it and comb through the data and make sure that it's 100% accurate before I hit the import button.
So what happens to all those transactions that come through the bank feed in QBO? Do they stay in there? Or? No,
if I do my import first, then go into banking, they'll all just match up, and I can just 2 clicks, just select all batch, enter, accept selected, and I'm done with my bank feeds for the week or whatever.
You ought to create a little program or a spreadsheet and sell it.
No, I'm thinking about that because it's on the heels of what I've now done with Amazon. I launched the course on the beginning of the course, I should say. The whole course is not live yet. I've launched the first series of lessons on accounting for e-commerce businesses, and the first part focuses specifically on the process I've created for how to import your biweekly Amazon settlement report. And one of the reasons I'm doing this, and now I've taken that same template and I can repurpose it for any sales channel. So whether I'm selling on Amazon or Shopify or eBay or anywhere, I can repurpose the same template because it operates on the same premise, which is that I have a master SKU list and another tab in the spreadsheet template that can look up the SKU of the item that's sold and bring in the product from QuickBooks so that I can quickly prep that for import and get it done. And what I'm finding is that using tools like WebGility, with WebGility, I'm still finding there's an error rate, sometimes 10%, sometimes more. And a lot of that is not because the product is bad. It's because a product like that comes with so many different settings that if you miss one, the sales tax doesn't come in. Or if you do something wrong, or if you don't set the setting the right way so that the payment method, whatever payment method was used to pay for the sale, goes into the right clearing account, because we don't want all that stuff going in undeposited funds because that creates a mess unto itself. And so after playing around with WebGility and doing the settings, and almost every time I go to sync my sales, I go in and there's a list of transactions that kick back errors. And now I've got to spend time with WebGility support, and WebGility support is great. They always fix it, but it adds a day to my timeline, right? Because I have to tell them what's going on, and then it takes a day for them to get back to me and fix it. And usually they do, but the point is, by creating a spreadsheet, and prepping it for import, my error rate is 0 because I can confirm it 6 ways till Sunday to make sure I've accounted for everything, to make sure I've mapped everything. And I have a process now that when I go to do my Amazon settlement import, I can have a settlement period with 30,000 lines of data, and it still takes no extra time for me to get that imported into QuickBooks Online. It's 5 or 10 minutes max because my mapping is already memorized in SASANT. So I've got the file prepped. I've got the template, which already has the columns I need. It's already configured for me to take that settlement report from Amazon, just drop it in, and then I have to do a couple of quick verifications, make sure I've got the right total, and then literally in about 3 clicks, I've got that data importing into QuickBooks Online, and about a minute or 2 later, I've got a sales receipt that all I have to do now is enter in a few more lines for the various fees that Amazon charges, and if there are any reserves, all that's also outlined in my template. So that's literally just copying and pasting maybe 4 or 5 additional lines of data into a sales receipt. And now I've got a sales receipt that reconciles 100% accurately the gross sale down to the net amount to the penny that was deposited into my client's bank account. And so having... Go ahead.
So I assume when you say spreadsheet, you're talking about Google Sheets, right?
I've been testing it both ways. I built it initially in Excel. The problem with using Google Sheets for this, as much as I'd love to, is the import tools don't work with Google Sheets yet. They need Excel. So what we're doing, though, is we're doing a lot of the process in Google Sheets, because what that does is it makes it the same. So Erica, for example, who works with me, is on a Mac. I'm on a PC. So we do most of the work in Google Sheets. And then we carve out this one tab that becomes the template that needs to get imported. So everything kind of flows over to this one tab, and we just save that one tab out and download it as an Excel file, and then that becomes a very light file. It's not this big bloated file with all the 30,000 lines that we downloaded from Amazon. So it's a very small file that takes a minute to get into the import tool to then import it into QBO. So I've literally been working for a little more than a year on this process, perfecting it. And now I've got it to where I feel it is perfected. And that's what got me thinking, I wonder if this isn't also a better process still for the bank feeds themselves. Because again, what it allows me the opportunity to do is just clean the data and make sure that it's error-free, because it might be that, these other more automated processes work better on the surface, but as soon as there's an error, as soon as there's a problem, now it costs me more time than it ever takes to take a little bit of the extra time up front to prepare an import file. That's what seems to be becoming my experience with this stuff.
Maybe you get some people from this group to beta test it.
One more time, Dennis. I heard
maybe you could. So maybe you get some people from the group to sort of beta test this and give you feedback as to their experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just beta testing it myself to see, because, at the end of the day, I'll tell you something very honestly, and some people may not like hearing me say this, but I've honestly grown a little tired of trying to convince people of things that I've researched and proven to myself over and over again. Like the last time I had a sort of debate with somebody, like about the whole QBO versus desktop thing, it was with somebody on Twitter who was responding to something I tweeted, and she starts telling me how she's taking QuickBooks Online clients and converting them back to desktop. And I allowed myself to get into it with her until I realized at a certain point what a waste of time this is. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to waste time trying to convince others of what I've convinced myself of, so completely. I'm just going to do it. And I'll just be the example. And as people reach out to me and say, hey, Seth, I'd like to learn to do what you're doing, frankly, I'll say, great, join my 97 and up program, because that's where I can work with you, one-on-one or one-on-3 or one-on-10 or whoever happens to join our call that week. But the bottom line is we can get it done there. That's where I'm able to really work with people like Greg and show them, this is how I'm doing it, and this is what I'm finding is really working. And so those guys and women become my sort of, beta testers, because I'll show them how I'm doing things, and then they'll try it and they'll tell me. And they'll tell me honestly. They'll say, Seth, you know what, I tried this and it's not working. And then it's a question of, is it because of the process and implementation, or is it because, there's some kind of a flaw in my logic, at which point we'll work on it together. That's what I love about our 97 Up program. It's truly a collaborative effort. Right, Greg?
Absolutely.
I mean, we've been working on this financial analysis template for a few weeks now on Tuesdays. Greg and I have been working together the most on it, I think, building these formulas that will, the template's going to be awesome when it's done. Right now, it's already gotten to the point where I think it's pretty awesome, because I have a table where I can say, I can put in a bunch of assumptions and say that I'm going to, and this is all in Google Sheets, by the way, but I can say, all right, let's say I'm buying a fixed asset on this date, and it's costing me $50,000, and here's what I think the return on asset is going to be percentage-wise. Of course, then we calculate the dollars, and then it also then I put in what I think the useful life is going to be, so it figures out the depreciation. And if I'm financing the asset, how much of it am I financing, and what's going to be the interest rate on that financing? And once I put that basic information in about the asset, it drops the financing part into a debt service schedule all automatically. It just looks it up and populates it in. We spent a couple of hours, and we spent 2 dedicated sessions on developing those formulas specifically so that it all drops in. And so actually starting next week, we're going to start rolling that information back to the balance sheet and the P&L with some very simple formulas so that we can start analyzing based on our assumption about what the ROA is going to be. Will this asset be worthwhile buying? Will it actually produce? Ultimately, the question is, will this increase equity in my balance sheet, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what I want to make sure of, because buying an asset doesn't increase equity because I'm either exhausting another asset to acquire it or I'm increasing a liability, or both, right? So buying assets doesn't increase equity. But if the return on that asset is going to come in at a rate that exceeds my interest expense plus my depreciation, now my equity is going to go up as a result of buying that asset. That's kind of the ultimate test, so that now we can work with clients and say, okay, so you're thinking about buying this asset. Let's run the assumptions. Let's run it through this template and see if it looks like it really makes sense to buy that asset. And then we're going to repurpose it slightly and build into the same model another schedule that looks at things that won't go to the balance sheet necessarily, but things like advertising campaigns that'll go straight to the P&L, and looking at what we think that return on an investment will be and see if that makes sense, and see how that's going to flow. Not just to the bottom line. Profits are important, but I think at the end of the day, profits are worthless if I don't keep them and build equity with them, right? So, in fact, I want to ask Mike Michalowicz for permission, because I love his book, Profit First, but I want to write a book called Profit First, Equity Second, right? Because I need to make the profits first, but then I need to retain them so I can build equity and add value very literally to my business, so that if it's something I want to sell at the end of the day, I have something that's got a book value to prove that it's worth somebody buying the company. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Marriott says, no need to spend time on non-believers. Too many believers that are well worth your time and are ready to jump on board. I agree.
It's kind of like clients. Why waste time on people that aren't going to be clients?
Exactly. Carmen says that would not be real time. I've lost the context about what we were talking about by that point.
Probably blockchain.
Yeah, probably. Let me just go back into the full-fledged feed here. Just going through the comments here. Carmen says, sometimes rules don't work. I have a file with 450 and many rules don't work. Sarah says, good old-fashioned currency is controlled by governments, which is an interesting point. Cryptocurrency simply expose the technology. Okay, so now we're back to, I think, the last few comments I had already read. So anyway, that's why my mind is on spreadsheets, because, of course, the caveat to all of that is that you know how to work with spreadsheets and know them really well. Not everybody does, which is why I'm actually excited. I've been teaching Excel at Santa Monica College, and I just yesterday had a conversation with the person from there who is kind of in charge of their community education program, which is what I'm teaching. I'm not teaching their students. I'm teaching, their community or adult education. I just gave her an outline for 3 Excel classes, basic, intermediate, and advanced. And when I sent it to her, I said, by the way, all of the same content can be done in Google Sheets. Everything that I'm teaching in Excel, the exact same stuff can be taught in Google Sheets. It all works the same way. And she got curious, and ultimately she said to me, she said, Seth, I would love to offer this course. I just need you to write something up for me so I can help the potential, students understand why they need to care about Google Sheets and not just use Excel. So, and I said, no problem. That'll be very easy to do. I can, in 5 minutes off the cuff, write up a paragraph explaining why I think people should consider Google Sheets as opposed to, or in addition to, Excel. Sarah posted a link to a YouTube video and says, this may help some people. I assume that's a video about blockchain. I don't know. Anyway, so
there's one out there that explains it on 5 different levels, from basically a kindergartner up to a IT professional.
But again, is it just explaining how blockchain works? Because I've seen that, and I get that up to a point. But I still have yet to see anything that explains to me how I'm going to be able to use it to verify something.
Right.
All of it's basically just telling me that based on what I've been told and what I'm being told, the minute somebody says, oh, it's using blockchain, I'm supposed to just trust it, right? Where do I go to verify what they're telling me blockchain is verified? Where's the blockchain ledger? What website do I go to view the blockchain ledger? That's what I want to know.
And how would you know that that's correct?
Yeah.
If it's on the web.
Yeah, and who's managing that?
On the internet, so it must be true.
Yeah, of course. That's what Abraham Lincoln said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting, like, for example, spreadsheets, how many people are using the spreadsheets on assumption it's right when there's errors built in, buried in the spreadsheets, and can create problems for you, or maybe even fraud, where people are putting some sort of, formula into it that's doing things, because there's really not a real rigorous process, at least that's taught, how to validate spreadsheets, unless you're building controls within the spreadsheet themselves to validate
everything
numbers.
has to be tested. So, like, before I upload and import it to Amazon, I have to check, ultimately, the one test that I rely on very much, because it's very unlikely it would work if there were any mistakes in between, is, does my net amount in my settlement come out to exactly what was deposited into the bank account at the end of that settlement period? If it matches to the penny, it's very unlikely there's an error in between from gross to net, right?
Right.
And because there's a lot of stuff that goes on. You'd be amazed, especially with Amazon. Every other sales channel is pretty simple. You have a gross sale, you have one fee, and the difference is what accounts for gross to net. Amazon has hundreds of different fees. I'm not even exaggerating, because there's, like, if something fell off the shelf and broke, they credit you for that. If something cost, they credit you. They have, of course, there's commissions, and then they have clawbacks, which I had to look up what a clawback was. It's just a commission reversal, essentially. From what I read, it sounds like it's a special case or a special kind of commission reversal.
Sounds like bankruptcy to me.
at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, so it's a reversal of a commission. I'm just going to push that through against commissions expense. That's all I care about. But my point is there's so many different line items in Amazon that's what makes it that much less likely that if there's any kind of an error, there's no way I'm going to get to the exact penny, dollar amount of what was deposited. So that's my verification. Plus, the settlement report itself has a space where it shows me this is what the deposit total is. So if my total in my template gets me to the right number that was deposited into the bank, and that number agrees to what the settlement report tells me it should be, that's a good three-way verification that I'm very comfortable with, right? I don't know where I go to have blockchain give me that same kind of verification about something. I'm just being told that it's 1,000% accurate, and I just have to believe it. And I'm sorry, I'm skeptical. I don't believe anything without actual proof. That's what auditing and accounting teaches us to do and to be. We need proof.
Be skeptical.
We never take anybody's word for anything. Our job is to be skeptical, right? In fact, one of the biggest weaknesses in a company's internal controls is what? Can anybody guess? One word.
People.
Close, but be more specific.
Person.
A little more. All right. Trust. Is if you look at an audit guide, like a CCH audit guide, it's been documented. That word has been documented as the single biggest weakness in a company's internal controls is trust. Having too much trust in people and therefore not putting systems in place to have the right checks and balances. As soon as you start trusting people, that is when you leave a hole open for somebody to take advantage of you. Period.
Like in fraud, it's usually the person you would suspect the least is the person you probably want to suspect the most. The old grandmother type that's always bringing cookies to the office, or everybody's favorite Uncle Bob kind of guy, and been there around 30 years and would never steal money.
When the real estate bubble burst back in 2008, I had so many clients come to me in the year that followed with situations where their longtime trusted bookkeepers had stolen all kinds of money from them. And it's because times like that and economies like that, that's when people start to get desperate and they start playing on their own sense of entitlement and say, well, I should have been getting paid more. And therefore, in their minds, they justify that it's okay for them to steal money from their employer because the employer should have been paying them more in the first place. And it's like,
or they're just borrowing it.
Yeah, exactly. Or they think they're borrowing it, they're going to put it back, but then they get in over their heads and they've taken more than they can ever pay back. It's crazy. And I love the logic, because it's laughable, of course. It's like if you really felt that justified, then you should have no problem talking to your boss and saying, hey, I think I deserve to get paid more, or do what I did, leave your company and go start your own business, right? Because then the only person you have to blame is yourself, and that's the only person you can steal from. So Marriott was asking about the cash flow show. Yes, the cash flow show went really well. I believe Mike will be posting it on cashflowtool.com. I have not heard back from him yet as to whether or not that has happened, but that is where they will be going. I've written up very detailed show notes with, a description of everything we discussed throughout the whole episode. And as we go on, we're going to build templates. We're going to give you links to those templates, and we're going to give you links to any resources mentioned. My goal is to have the best show notes in the industry on the cash flow show. So just look around for that. Obviously, I'll post it everywhere once I know for sure that it's gone up and live and online and available for everyone to see. So that's the cash flow show. That's me and Mike Milan. And that will be every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. Just go onto Facebook and find cashflowtool.com on Facebook. Use the Facebook search bar for that. You'll find the page, like the page, and then go there every Tuesday at about 4 o'clock. Get there a couple minutes early, and you'll see we'll go live right there, and we'll do our show. Never more than a half an hour. Most of them are going to be 20 to 25 minutes on one very specific topic, kind of a quick deep dive on something, just to give you yet another tool you can use, something that will help you better understand how you can better serve your clients with understandings of things related to cash flow and how to improve it. So we're going to get into simple stuff at first, and then eventually we'll probably get into some technical stuff, things like discount rates and net present value and internal rates of return. You know, I'm kind of excited, but Mike and I discussed this, that we need to build to that slowly because not everybody understands this stuff right off the bat. So we're going to start off probably getting into some basic terminology, and we'll spend an entire episode explaining some of these simpler terms so that anybody who wants to kind of follow along can start from episode 1 and kind of catch up to us, and then, you know, hopefully we'll start really getting to a place where, like I said, our goal is to provide you with resources that will enable you to better serve your clients and, most importantly, improve cash flow. That's the goal. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. It's 9:03 a.m. Pacific time, which means it's time to wrap it up. Is Gina here with us today? I don't see her either on Facebook.
See.
I guess not, but I'm sure her hangout will be happening later today. Just go to SBAA on Facebook, Small Business Accounting Advisors on Facebook. Request to join the group if you're not there already, and I'm sure she'll let you in so that you can join her hangout later today. It's usually just what you see is what you get, a casual conversation among friends with information about really good stuff. So check that out. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Anybody else? Anything else before we run? All right, then. I'm going to run. I'll see you all next week. We have Futurely next week coming on as a guest, showing us how they are going to improve your practice.